They're getting education. They're being taken care of. They're coming up. I know that. There's an incredible improvement in this community. Even if you take Muslims who came to Birmingham as workers, underclass, living in poor white areas, a lot of times you'll find today that those whites are still where they were, and the Muslims have moved up. That's not uncommon, and you know much more about that than I do. But I know that's a fact, because I've been told it's a fact. So we can do it. You know, we are people who belong to one of the greatest civilizations that was ever seen on earth. We are the people who brought the earth to life, time and time again. And that's not exaggeration. That's not apologetics. And that's what we have to do. You know, we should be a light in Birmingham. And inshallah, we will be a light in Birmingham. You know, we will be a solution for problems. And once that happens, wait and see what happens. We will then be able to take part, inshallah, in the solution of the other problems, one by one. You know, charity begins at home. Get your house together, get my house together. And then we go from there to another one and another one in a wise way that is worthy of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, so I'm told to get moving. In any case, I think the rest of it probably doesn't need to be, we don't need to, you know, I wanted to talk about social psychology. I wanted to talk about ideology. Basically, I've got no time. So let's just say a word. That, you know, we believe in Islam. We believe in this beautiful law, this prophetic law that was given to us, which is rich and beautiful and wonderful, which I find intoxicating. Study the law and tell me if it's not. With its maxims, its principles, its jurisprudence. This is one of the greatest legal systems that ever was in the world. And it certainly is one of the oldest continuous systems in the world. We don't break the rules of our law. We follow our law. Our law is very wide. It's very generous. It's very broad. But I want to tell you something. There is something that is worse than breaking a law. And that is breaking a psyche. That is breaking a psyche. And when you break a psyche, you can't repair it. You break a law, you take the punishment. You break a law, you do the kafara, you do the atonement. You ask forgiveness, you make it up. When you break a psyche, how do you fix that? I mean, you know, you look in the Muslim world at some of the people, like let's take the Afghans. Do you realize that there are Afghans who never saw a day of peace in their lives? Who were born in war. There are a lot of Palestinians like that. They were born in war. They grew up in war. All they know is war. Most of them are orphans. What kind of a psyche does that create? But especially in our community, we're faced with all kinds of problems, and we have to protect these psyches. And the problems that we're faced with, if we don't control them, and if we don't begin to work, then the psyche gets broken. If you stay in a state of anger, and I said already, you've got to get rid of the anger. Get over it. Get to work. You know, look at yourself. There's work to do here. And that doesn't mean to ignore the other things, you know, but get to work. Then the psyche will be healthy. When we don't do that, and we scream and we shout and we look at the problems, but we're not doing anything, then the psyche's broken. And when the psyche's broken, what do you do about it? And then we could talk about ideology. And there are some ideologies out there that are very strange. But again, why do people accept stuff like that? I mean, I've seen that happen. I've seen people accept ideologies that it's like, they don't make any sense. They're crazy. But then again, you have to look at that person. You have to look at that psyche. You have to look at the situation. So, coming back to where we began, what is the solution? I don't believe there's an easy solution, but I do believe that the solution begins right here. And it begins by getting to work. It begins by getting, the community back on its feet. To continue to do what you're already doing, but to do it better and better and better. And to make this community into an example, a model for other communities. And having said all of that, and left you no time, I turn over the floor to questions. No questions. I'm off scot-free. Yes. Go ahead. Go ahead. You raise your hand. Look, he's looking so funny. Okay, go ahead. Wa alaikum assalam.
I'd just like to thank you for allowing us to be.
Well, I didn't do that, I'm not going to be the one that gets lynched. That was the authorities who did that. Yeah, I think that.
I would like to say it's very wonderful for all of us to come to these, very spiritually uplifting, invigorating talks. But the fact is, the reality of our situation as Muslims is pretty grim. In England, anyway, I've just moved over from Ireland, and the situation in Ireland is very different. The Muslims are very involved, very integrated. I mean, they have their identity, but they're completely part of the society. And I mean, there are historical reasons for that. But the fact is, as a newcomer to England, I'm shocked at the problems, particularly with regards to the way the women are treated. And I know that's a controversial issue, but I actually think there's an extreme situation where the Muslim women are treated as a non-entity and just barely tolerated. That's a huge generalization, I realize, because there are some wonderful brothers as well. But generally, in the masjids here, there's almost always a problem when you go into the masjid. It's almost a physical reaction to your presence there. And I mean, that's an extreme position, following on from your lovely discussion this afternoon, where the reality of the feminine is completely disregarded in the current state in the West, in England in particular. And I just would like maybe to give us, as men and women, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, daughters and sons, some advice as to how we can bridge that and get over this almost schizophrenia that we're suffering from.
When I was in Saudi Arabia, I follow a school, and my school is the Maliki school. And one of my teachers was Dr. Khaldun al-Ahdab, who is a great muhaddith, and I think he's one of the greatest in this time. And he's also a great scholar of Islam. He's a very close friend, and he was a teacher and a colleague, a master of hadith. I don't think there's anyone equal to him in that, in the Muslim world. And I believe very strongly in the Maliki school. I love the Maliki school. And I respect the Hanafi school. And I respect the other schools. And I respect the opinions. Islam is a religion of dissent. It's a religion of many opinions. But one of the things he used to tell me is that if you go back to the hadith, you'll find that it's very expansive. You'll find that it's very expansive. And I believe that when it comes to gender issues in particular, that we need to go back and to look at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Medina. And we may be surprised to find there that a lot of the positions that we take were not the way it was in the days of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And there's a very great book that was written by a great muhaddith who was a Salafi. His name is Abu Shaqqa.